In the dry heat of northern Nigeria, under the vast and sun-baked sky, lay the village of Gorimbaka, which was nestled between rolling dunes and sparse trees. Dust settled in the air, coating the brown mud houses and sandy paths where children played, the women pounding millet, and the men gathered after work to chat in the shade. In one of these houses lived Amina, a bright-eyed and soft-spoken girl of 12. She was slim and quick, always darting in and out of the house, helping her mother fetch water, sweep the compound, and carry food to her father and brothers. Her world was simple, her dreams untouched by the complexities that adulthood would bring. But that all changed when, one evening, her father, Musa, came home with a guest. The guest was Alhaji Suleiman, a man well into his 50s, known for his wealth and standing in the community. He had 3 wives already, each older than Amina's mother, and many children. He was respected by the men and feared by the women. But when Amina looked at him, she only saw a stranger with graying hair and a face lined with years of hard life. After a brief exchange of pleasantries and the usual sharing of kola nuts, her father called Amina into the room. She entered with her head bowed, her heart beating faster than usual. When she looked up, she saw the 2 men staring at her as if they were inspecting a cow at the market. She glanced at her mother, who stood in the corner, her face expressionless but her hands trembling. "Amina," her father said in a voice that carried authority. "Alhaji Suleiman has come to ask for your hand in marriage. It is a great honor for our family. You will be his 4th wife." Amina's heart dropped. Her breath caught in her throat. She had heard stories of girls being married off at young age, but she never imagined it would happen to her. Her mind raced. She was only 12, a child, still filled with dreams of playing with her friends, learning to read and write in the village school, and maybe one day becoming a teacher. "But Baba," she stammered, her voice barely audible. "I don't want to marry yet." Her father's face darkened. "It is not for you to decide, Amina. This is our way. Alhaji Suleiman is a respected man. He will take care of you, and you will be a good wife." Tears welled in Amina's eyes as she turned to her mother, hoping for some sign of support, but her mother only looked away, too afraid to challenge her husband's authority. Amina felt trapped, her voice swallowed by the expectations of her culture and the weight of tradition. The days following the announcement of her betrothal were a blur for Amina. The women in the village whispered about her, some with envy and others with pity. The preparations for the marriage began almost immediately, with her mother sewing a new dress for her and her father boasting to the other men in the mosque about his daughter's impending marriage to a wealthy man. But inside, Amina was in turmoil. She could not accept this fate. Each night, she cried silently in her bed, thinking of a future that she could not bear, a future where she would be nothing more than a servant to an old man and his other wives, where her dreams of education and independence would be snuffed out before they could even begin to take root. One night, as she lay in bed staring at the ceiling, she heard a soft knock on the door. It was her older brother, Hassan. He was 16 and had always been kind to her, often sneaking her treats from the market or helping her with her chores when their father wasn't looking. "Amina," he whispered, sitting down beside her. "I know you don't want this marriage." She nodded, wiping her tears. "I don't, Hassan. I can't." Hassan sighed deeply, looking out the window at the moonlit night. "I've been thinking," he said. "You're smart, Amina. You've always wanted to go to school, haven't you?" "Yes," she whispered. "More than anything." "Then maybe there's another way," he said softly. "There's a women's school in the city, a boarding school. If you could get there, you could continue your education, and no one could force you into this marriage." Amina's heart leaped at the possibility, but fear quickly followed. But Baba would never allow it. And how would I even get there? I will help you, Hossein said firmly. I will find a way. You deserve to have your own life, Amina. You don't have to do this just because it's what they expect. Tears welled up in her eyes again, but this time they were tears of hope. She hugged her brother tightly, whispering her gratitude. For the first time in days, she felt a glimmer of light in the darkness. The night Amina left her village was one of the most terrifying and exhilarating moments of her life. Hossein had made arrangements with a friend who was traveling to the city the next morning. Under the cover of darkness, they snuck out of the house, Amina carrying only a small bundle of clothes and the few coins Hossein had been able to spare. The road to the city was long and dusty, but Amina felt a strange sense of peace as they moved further from the village. The thought of her father's anger, her mother's disappointment, and the whispers of the villagers still haunted her, but she pushed them aside. She was running towards her future, towards a life she could control. When they reached the city, her son's friend took her to the school. It was a modest building, but to Amina, it was a palace. The headmistress, a stern, yet kind woman named Mrs. Sadia, took Amina in after hearing her story. She promised to protect her and ensure she could continue her education. Amina's first weeks at the school were difficult. She missed her family, especially Hossein, and she often worried about what would happen if her father found out where she was. But as time passed, she grew stronger. She made friends with other girls who had similar stories, and together they formed a bond that helped them heal and move forward. Years passed, and Amina blossomed into a strong and confident young woman. She excelled in her studies, particularly in languages and social sciences. She discovered a deep love for reading, and she often lost herself in the pages of books that transported her to worlds far beyond her own. When she graduated from the school, Amina didn't return to her village. Instead, she pursued a degree in education at a university in the city. She knew that education was the key to changing the lives of girls like her, and she was determined to become a teacher so that she could help other girls escape the cycle of forced marriage and limited opportunities. Amina's story spread, and soon she became known as an advocate for girls' education and women's rights. She began working with local organizations to raise awareness about the importance of education for girls and the dangers of child marriage. Her courage inspired many, and she became a beacon of hope for young girls in the community. After many years, Amina finally returned to Gorimbaka, not as the young frightened girl who had once fled in the dead of night, but as a woman of strength and purpose. She had become a teacher, a leader, and an advocate, and she was determined to bring change to her village. When she arrived, the villagers were shocked to see her. Some whispered in shock, others in disbelief, but all could see that she had become something extraordinary. Even her father, once so strict and unyielding, was humbled by the sight of his daughter standing before him, confident and accomplished. Amina didn't come to reproach her family or to dwell on the past. Instead, she came with a message of hope and a promise of a better future for the girls of her village. She worked with the local leaders to establish a school for girls, ensuring that every child had the opportunity to learn and grow free from the constraints of early marriage and the limitations of traditional expectations. In time, the village of Gorimbaka began to change. The girls who once faced a life of servitude and silence now had the chance to dream of something more. And Amina, once a girl, whose fate had been decided for her, had become a symbol of what could be achieved when one has the courage to fight for their own destiny. The lesson to learn from this story is that it is very important to know that, even in difficult circumstances, having the courage to stand up for what is right can lead to a fulfilling and impactful life, and that success is most meaningful when used to uplift others and inspire future generations.